Zoos are places of wonder, where we marvel at exotic animals. But what if they hide a darker truth? Tonight, we uncover the eerie, haunted secrets lurking in 15 of the UK's most chilling zoos. 15 Edinburgh Zoo. Set high on Corstorphine Hill, overlooking Edinburgh's skyline, this historic zoo appears serene at first glance. But those who've worked here after dark know it holds something more than animals behind fences. Over the years, security staff and caretakers have reported strange disturbances, most notably the presence of a ghostly figure known as the Grey Lady. She's said to haunt a staff building near the old education centre, a figure in Victorian dress gliding silently through corridors, vanishing as quickly as she appears. More unsettling are the sounds of a baby crying, heard late at night in the same building. The cries echo down hallways even when no one is inside. One night shift keeper, investigating the source of the noise, found an entire room ice cold despite the heating being on. He swore the temperature dropped as soon as he opened the door, and rose again the moment he left. Some believe the ghost may be connected to the site's history before it became a zoo, a time when the hill housed private estates and tragic family stories. Others think the woman lost a child, and her spirit remains eternally searching. Whatever the truth, seasoned staff still refuse to work alone in that wing. It's not evil, one said, but it's hollow, sad, and it sees you. 14. Bristol Zoo Project. Nestled in a quiet pocket of ancient woodland near South Gloucestershire, the new Bristol Zoo Project blends wildlife conservation with immersive habitat design. But among the trees of Bearwood, something else seems to dwell. Staff working late have reported seeing tall, thin shadows moving silently between the trunks, far too tall for wolves or lynxes, and yet not quite human in shape either. One maintenance worker, checking fencing after hours, described a figure that walked like it had joints in the wrong places, and when he shone his torch on it, nothing was there. Another zookeeper recalled a summer evening when the entire lynx enclosure went eerily silent, all animals backing into corners, eyes fixed on a point just beyond the fence. Nothing could be seen, but the air reportedly grew thick and heavy. Some believe these are nature spirits, guardians of the woodland disturbed by human intrusion. Others point to older, darker tales of forgotten burial sites or rituals whispered to have taken place centuries ago beneath those same trees. Cameras glitch, batteries drain, and tools disappear. Bearwood may be a haven for animals, but perhaps it's not ours to control. 13. Chester Zoo. Chester Zoo is known as one of the UK's finest wildlife institutions, bustling with families by day, home to over 20,000 animals. But as darkness falls and visitors leave, some staff say the zoo becomes different. Central to this legend is Alfred, a gorilla who died decades ago and became a symbol of the zoo's early years. Though his body was later transferred to a museum for display, many believe his spirit never left. Night staff have reported doors opening by themselves, loud banging from empty enclosures, and the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps pacing on concrete. One worker swore he saw the silhouette of a great ape standing near the old gorilla house. It turned its head, made eye contact, and then faded into thin air. Even today, when new primates arrive, odd things tend to happen. Enrichment items go missing, locks fail, animals act uneasy. "He's watching them," said one keeper, judging, like he used to when new animals came in. There's no malice in Alfred's presence, but there is a weight, a gravity that lingers. Perhaps it's loyalty, perhaps it's unfinished business, or maybe Some souls just refuse to leave the place they loved most. 12. Whipsnade Zoo sprawled across the Dunstable Downs. Whipsnade Zoo is Britain's largest zoological park, with sweeping landscapes, free-roaming deer, and open skies. But in the thick morning mists and deepening twilight, some say the land reveals a different face. Built on former military land, parts of the zoo once served as a training ground during World War II, and that legacy seems to echo still. Night guards patrolling the periphery have repeatedly heard the sound of boots, marching in formation, always just out of sight. The rhythm is precise, military, unmistakable. When they shine lights into the mist, there's nothing there. One employee reported seeing the vague outline of a soldier standing beneath a tree, tall, motionless, and gone when he blinked. Technological glitches are common. Radios fail near the old railway station, and batteries die without cause. One former ranger shared a chilling experience. While walking a routine path, he heard a sharp command. "Stand down," barked from behind, but he was alone, and no one else was on shift. Some say it's a residual haunting, the land playing back old memories. Others whisper it's a guardian spirit, keeping watch. Whatever it is, no one stays out long when the fog rolls in thick. 11. Blackpool Zoo. Blackpool Zoo may now be a family-friendly destination, but its roots lie in something far grimmer. The grounds once housed an active RAF base during World War II, and the zoo's maintenance hangar is a direct remnant of that era. Workers say the building never quite lost its wartime soul. Inside, the air feels stale, charged, as if something unseen is always present. Strange occurrences abound. Footsteps on metal walkways when no one's there, lights that switch on after being turned off, tools vanishing and reappearing hours later in sealed drawers. One mechanic, working late, claimed he saw a man in RAF uniform walking along the back wall, head down, hands behind his back, only to dissolve into the corrugated steel. During storms, the hangar hums with unnatural noise, a low, rhythmic thrum like aircraft engines warming up. Even animals kept nearby seem to avoid the building, pacing nervously or refusing to settle. Staff now refer to the hangar simply as the Old Post, and few will enter it alone. Some say it's the spirit of a pilot who never made it back. Others say it's the building itself, still living a past it cannot escape. Either way, something old still walks there, and it remembers. 10. Dartmore Zoological Park. Set on the windswept edge of Dartmore National Park, Dartmore Zoo is surrounded by ancient moorland and folklore older than the roads that lead there. But in recent decades, a new legend has emerged, that of the Phantom Keeper. Several staff members over the years have reported glimpses of a man in a green zoo uniform from the 1980s, walking along the perimeter of the old Big Cat enclosure. The issue: no such keeper has ever existed on record, and the uniform style was discontinued decades ago. The sightings usually happen just after dusk, often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature and the scent of wet earth, as if the air itself turns stale. One junior keeper described seeing the figure crouching beside a feeding pen, as if tending to an animal that wasn't there. When she approached, he looked up, met her gaze, and vanished into the ground mist. Some believe the man was a keeper who died in an unreported accident, possibly involving one of the larger cats. Others suggest the land, steeped in dark energy from nearby prehistoric sites, simply echoes its visitors, back in strange and lingering ways. Whatever the case, staff now speak quietly of the old one, and few are willing to work that side of the zoo alone after sundown. 9. Colchester Zoo. Colchester Zoo, one of the UK's oldest and most beloved zoos, hides a darker chapter beneath its modern attractions. In the early 2000s, the old elephant house was decommissioned and closed to the public. Since then, strange occurrences have plagued those working in the area. Tools misplaced, lights flickering without reason, and, most disturbingly, low rumbling sounds like the distant call of an elephant echoing in the night. One night, watchmen reported hearing heavy, deliberate footsteps inside the building when it was meant to be empty. Upon entering, he saw nothing but a set of enormous, wet prints trailed across the floor and disappeared into a concrete wall. Others have described hearing whispers in a language they couldn't identify, always coming from the far end of the elephant corridor. Rumors persist that a beloved elephant died under traumatic circumstances decades ago, and its spirit, unable to move on, still walks the halls. Animal behaviorists say elephants have an extraordinary memory. If that's true in death, as in life, perhaps this one has simply never forgotten where it lived or how it died. 8. Nuki Zoo. Nuki Zoo, nestled near the windswept cliffs of Cornwall, is a peaceful haven by day. But by night, parts of it come alive with strange, unnatural sounds. The most notorious stories center around the old primate enclosures. Longtime staff speak of the Screamer, an unseen presence that howls in the dead of night, its cry echoing through the trees like that of a primate in distress. The zoo's CCTV has occasionally picked up unexplained motion in the trees around the Monkey Islands, swinging branches with no wind, shadows moving through foliage far too large and fast to belong to the animals on record. One former keeper recalled locking up the primates for the night, only to hear frantic scratching at the doors 30 minutes later. Yet all the monkeys were accounted for and sleeping. Some say the spirit belongs to a chimpanzee that was euthanized after a tragic incident decades ago. Others whisper of an older feral creature that once escaped and was never found. Whatever the source, the cries have become part of staff lore. New workers are often dared to walk the primate path after midnight. Most only try once. 7. Twirross Zoo. Twirross Zoo, famous for its dedication to primates and conservation, has a history that stretches back to the 1960s. It also allegedly plays host to a spirit who never clocked out. Known only as the Old Keeper, this ghostly figure is often seen near the elephant and rhino enclosures, always alone, always silent. He wears a faded khaki coat, rubber boots, and walks with a slight limp. Many who have seen him assume he's an older staff member, until he vanishes into thin air. One particularly unnerving encounter involved two young volunteers who found the figure inside a locked paddock at dusk. When they called out, he turned slowly and disappeared into the shadows, even though no exit was nearby. Later checks confirmed no one had entered the pen that day. Stories suggest that a devoted keeper collapsed from a heart attack on site many years ago and was found only hours later by colleagues. His ghost, they say, continues his daily rounds, feeding, observing, protecting. The animals, strangely, never seem disturbed by him. In fact, some seem calmed. Perhaps in death, he remains the guardian he was in life. 6. Shephard Wildlife Park. Tucked away in the quiet countryside of Cambridgeshire, Shephard Wildlife Park offers a peaceful escape from city life. But its infamous bug house tells a different story, housing exotic insects, reptiles, and nocturnal creatures. This dimly lit section of the zoo has long made staff uneasy, not because of the animals, but because of what else seems to lurk there. Reports include the feeling of being watched from empty corners, soft whispering in languages no one recognizes, and sudden cold drafts that seemed to move against the airflow. One caretaker described seeing an entire row of terrarium lights flicker off in sequence, as if something had passed in front of them. Others have found enclosures mysteriously unlocked, with nothing taken and no damage done. Some believe the bug house is haunted by the spirit of a former entomologist who died suddenly in the 1990s. He was obsessed with his collection, reportedly spending long hours alone with the insects. They say he still roams the aisles, whispering to his specimens. Visitors may never notice, but those who've worked there long enough agree the bugs aren't the only things watching you. 5. Linton Zoo. Linton Zoo, a quaint little zoo in the Cambridgeshire countryside, is home to many charming animals, but it's also infamous for a story that chills the bones of those who work there. The tale revolves around a lioness whose presence lingers in the old lion enclosure, even after her death. The zoo has a reputation for strange noises emanating from this area at night. Staff have reported hearing what sounds like a lioness crying mournfully in the early hours, long after the zoo has closed. A keeper once described hearing the unmistakable sound of a lioness crying, only to find all the enclosures locked and empty. The sound was so real, so painful, that it made the hair stand on the back of his neck. One night, as he was locking up, he saw the silhouette of a lioness in the dim light, standing near the fence. As he approached, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind an eerie silence. Some believe the lioness's spirit is trapped, still mourning her untimely death. Perhaps she was unable to leave this place, and her cries are a desperate plea for release. No one knows for sure, but the legend persists, with the lioness's mournful wail still heard on the quietest of nights. 4. Marwell Zoo. Marwell Zoo, nestled in the Hampshire countryside, has a long history of animal care and conservation, but it also has its own dark tale to tell. Many years ago, a beloved rhino keeper tragically passed away unexpectedly while tending to the rhinos. The zoo staff believe his spirit never truly left the grounds, and it still roams the area, particularly near the rhino enclosure, where he spent the most time. On several occasions, staff have reported seeing a tall figure in the shadows by the rhino pens, dressed in an old keeper's uniform. This figure is often mistaken for a current staff member until it vanishes into the night. One former keeper shared that on a particularly stormy evening, he could feel an unmistakable presence standing just behind him as he fed the rhinos. But when he turned around, no one was there. The most unsettling part of this haunting is the soft, steady sound of footsteps that can be heard around the rhino enclosure at night, even though no one is around. Some believe the keeper's attachment to his rhinos was so strong that his spirit continues to care for them, even in death. It's as though he cannot leave, watching over the animals he loved. 3. Dudley Zoo and Castle. Dudley Zoo, located in the shadow of the imposing Dudley Castle, has a chilling history, not just in the world of animals, but in the ancient stones of the castle itself. The zoo is set within the grounds of a medieval castle, once home to wealthy families, and later a prison. The spirits of those who met untimely deaths here are said to still wander the castle grounds, and they occasionally make their presence known in the zoo. One of the most chilling stories is about the ghost of a former prison warden who is said to haunt the castle ruins, and at times the zoo itself. Many staff members have reported hearing heavy footsteps following them in the old parts of the zoo, particularly near the castle walls. Some have claimed to hear whispers in the air, soft but distinct, as if someone is speaking directly to them. A keeper once recalled seeing a shadowy figure, dressed in dark, old-fashioned clothing, standing by the castle ruins late at night. When the figure was approached, it simply faded into the mist. Staff who have worked at Dudley Zoo for years say the air feels different around the castle, thicker, colder, as if something unseen is watching them from just out of sight. 2. Belfast Zoo. Belfast Zoo, situated on the slopes of Cave Hill, is well known for its diverse animal collection, but it also has a sinister past that continues to haunt the grounds. One of the most notorious areas of the zoo is the old Lion House, where the first lions were housed when the zoo opened in 1934. Although the Lion House has since been replaced, the spirits of the past seem to linger there. Staff and visitors alike have reported strange happenings around the old Lion House. Some have heard the sound of lion roars echoing through the walls long after the animals have been relocated. Others have claimed to see shadows moving behind the windows, despite the building being completely empty. One night, a zoo worker noticed a faint outline of a lion's head visible in the darkened window, but when she rushed to investigate, nothing was there. The most eerie of all is the story of a staff member who, while walking past the old Lion House at night, felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and unease. He described hearing the distinct sound of a lion's growl, followed by a deep, sorrowful sigh. When he looked around, there was no sign of any animals. Many believe the lion's spirit is still roaming the area, forever tied to the place where it once lived. 1. Linton Zoo. Linton Zoo, one of the most famous zoos in the world, has long been a place of wonder and curiosity. However, it is also home to one of the most chilling tales of ghostly apparitions. The story centers on a keeper who mysteriously vanished from the zoo in the early 1900s. Despite a thorough search, the man was never found, and no trace of his disappearance was ever explained. Over the years, many employees have claimed to see a figure in an old keeper's uniform wandering around the zoo, particularly in the quieter, more secluded areas. One night, a group of staff members reported seeing a shadowy figure standing near the big cat enclosure. When they approached, the figure simply vanished into the air. The most unsettling part of this haunting is the feeling that something or someone is always watching you when you walk through certain parts of the zoo. Several keepers have confessed to hearing footsteps behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. Some even claim to have been spoken to by the disembodied voice of the missing keeper. No one knows for sure if he ever truly left the zoo, or if his spirit continues to carry out his duties even after death.